Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Jan Michael here. Happy New Year! We did it! Another year closer to our inevitable demise. And to distract us from that horrifying fact, I thought I'd bring you a very special video. This is my super early Oscar predictions for 2024. Why am I doing this, you might be asking? Well, instead of doing my most anticipated of the year list, which pretty much everybody in the world is doing, I decided I'd go about it a completely different way. These are not only the films that I feel could potentially be Oscar contenders for 2024, but they're also films that I would like to see be Oscar contenders for 2024. It's gonna be a little bit of a mix, so maybe you won't see the things on here that you think you would see, so isn't that always the case with me though? Please keep in mind that I'm only going to be talking about Best Picture. I'm not going to be going into actors, directors, anything like that, although as I go through this list, I will be talking about the potential for actors or directors to also get the nomination. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into my number 10, Air Jordan. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon team up once again, this time telling the story of salesman Sonny Vaccaro in his pursuit of Michael Jordan. Now, Ben can be an Oscar contender. I mean, his film Argo did go on to win Best Picture. The question here is, will this film also take it all the way to win? And will Ben end up getting snubbed for director like he did back with Argo? And really, just reading the synopsis for this story, I don't see why you would need some sort of unique directing style to tell the film's tale, so I don't know. I don't think this is going to be a director picture, but who knows, maybe Matt Damon could get a nomination. Ben Affleck is also in the film as well, so maybe he could get in. As of right now, this is pretty low just because it's hard to envision exactly how far the film can go in terms of wowing the Oscar crowd and making it a grand winner. I can maybe see more of a writing nomination for the film, but again, the great thing about this is we don't really know anything right now. I did hear, or read, I should say, that the film has finished filming, so I'm pretty sure we'll be getting it this year. I don't believe we have a release date on it just yet, so it could slip into the following year, but with it being done, I think there's a good chance we'll get it this year. But with so much unknown, this is why it sits right at the very bottom at number 10. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Okay, look, I get it. Animation has a really hard time getting into Best Picture. As of right now, we've only ever had 3. Beauty and the Beast, Up, and Toy Story 3. All worthy picks, I believe. But I also think that the Spider-Man cartoon films could reach that same level of acclaim. I know it's hard because one of the big questions you really have to ask yourself is, where else other than animated feature film could it also get a nomination for? And truthfully, I think there's quite a couple of places. I mean, you've got score, song. I think those are the probably easier things to think about. I think sound could also be a possibility. I know you don't really see that, but who knows? Anything's possible. Director, probably not, but maybe things like a screenplay, with just that. I mean, we've seen Best Picture nominees with just 2 before, and in recent years. So if it could get into a couple of different categories, just maybe 2 or 3, I don't see why it's impossible for it to get Best Picture. The other thing I do think will hold it back is that this is a part 1 of 2. And I think most of the time the Oscars really like to honor the last film in a multi-part series. So I think that's the reason it's really so low on the list and why maybe, just maybe, I don't see this particular one getting into Best Picture. But hey, there's part 2, and that's also a very strong possibility, I believe. May December. This one comes from director Todd Haynes, who has created quite a bit of films, but the one that really comes to mind when thinking about this one is Carol. This one follows a couple that an actress comes over to kind of interview because she's going to be portraying one of the 2 couples, and kind of how tensions start to boil when things come to light that happened 20 years ago. And just based on that synopsis, I can see this being a powerhouse performance type of film where you have Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore possibly getting nominated. I also think, depending on how the film is shot, if it is all in one location, as the synopsis, that's what I feel could go with. I mean, I think of things like Mass, where you had things start to escalate and you get these ginormous performances, and you see kind of people like escalate to this grandiose moment of just yelling and screaming and crying and just really showing off what these actresses can do. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing exactly how this film ends up being made, I will say. Really, we don't know much other than the synopsis and who's in it, but I have a very close eye on this one. I think it has the potential to be a strong Oscar contender. So yes, one that I think very much warrants a spot on the list as of right now. Lee. Now, when I first saw the title for this one, I got excited because I thought to myself, holy shit, they're doing a biography on Bruce Lee's life. I'm down. But then as I researched further, it turned out that was completely wrong. But I'm nonetheless intrigued by this premise. This one actually follows photographer Elizabeth Lee Miller, who is a fashion model who became an acclaimed war correspondent, from what the synopsis says. Now, I'm not too familiar with this individual, and I honestly probably not going to look them up. Now that a film's coming out, I want to be surprised. I want to know what there is that the film is going to tell us, and then do the research afterwards, just so I can compare and contrast. But I think it's a very fascinating tale, and I love when war films, if you will, take a different approach to telling their tale, because you hear war films and it's a straight typical, oh, going to war, people dying, so on and so forth. But I like when films tackle that subject in a different way, like Hacksaw Ridge, where you had a pacifist going into war, or The Hurt Locker, where you saw the bomb disposal squad go in and how they disarm bombs and the crazy shit that they got into. So I like seeing films tackle war in a different light. So this is one that I have a really close eye on. And it also being centered around war, you have the potential for a lot of tech categories like sound, like editing, if it shows the craziness of it, visual effects, depending on how gruesome it really can get. So again, I think one to really keep a lookout on. And director Ellen Kuras, who I was doing a little tiny bit of research on, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is the directorial debut. She's done a shit ton of other stuff. I think she's done her own photography and lighting and things like that, but I think this is the first time behind the camera. So yeah, I think this has the potential to be something very, very impressive and something for us to keep our eyes on. Napoleon. God damn it, Ridley Scott, you're gonna tackle Napoleon. Ugh. Look, I'm not a big fan of Ridley Scott. I get that he gets his dick sucked by the Oscars and the Golden Globes like a heck of a lot. Though, strangely not always. His last Duel, which I actually thought was pretty decent, didn't do so hot, but I don't know. Look, the only reason this is this high on the list is because I actually really like the life of Napoleon, or I should say researching the life of Napoleon. He was a very fascinating individual. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing how kind of Hollywood does a depiction of his life. And with Joaquin Phoenix in the role, holy shit, you know that's going to be on a lot of people's best actor predictions. I mean, it would be on mine if I were doing that category. So yeah, really looking forward to it just because of the subject material, but really Scott is really what's keeping me from placing it any higher on this list. Oppenheimer. I'm gonna admit that when I first was ranking these, or where I wanted to place all my picks, I had this one much lower on the list because Christopher Nolan doesn't always get the best representation at the Oscars. He does get snubbed quite a bit. But then I thought to myself, man, the last time that he really had a big Oscar contender that was a huge major player was with Dunkirk. And then I thought, wait, realistic? Oppenheimer realistic? Okay, I see what's going on here. So yeah, I think Oppenheimer has the potential to really be big with the Oscar voters. And one thing that I'm super excited about is Cillian Murphy potentially getting an Oscar nomination. Cillian is one of those actors that, for people that are into film or see a lot of movies, who know who he is, and when you talk to them about Cillian, they're always talking about positive things. They're like, oh yeah, he's great, I love him in this, I love him in that. But he's still one of those names that if you go up to just kind of a casual moviegoer, they'd probably go, "Who is that?" Not realizing they may have seen him in something. So I think if he manages to snag an Oscar nomination, I think his name will definitely be carried to a lot more ears and potentially get more recognition in the works that he's done. So, and lead to more roles, of course, because you can never get too much of Cillian, right? Apart from that, just like with Dunkirk, I think it has the potential of a lot of other nominations. Visual effects, possibly, although I hear that they actually detonated an atomic bomb for this film, so alright, cool, doomed the planet for a film. What else is new? I mean, you have sound, of course, editing, you potentially have writing, director, of course, actor, maybe actress for Emily Blunt. Here's another one that Matt Damon is in. Robert Downey Jr. is in this one, which is great. We finally get to see him in something other than Marvel property, which I miss. So yeah, I think this can go pretty hard at the Oscars. This could potentially be a top 5, but again, I know it's a bit too early to tell. I can only just get excited for the possibility. Poor Things. Now, Yorgos Lanthimos' last film, The Favorite, was a huge Oscar contender. Like, fucking everybody had a boner for that film. That film was beloved, and it got Olivia Colman her shocking win, where everybody's like, holy shit, they gave it to Olivia, and it began her trajectory of getting nominated almost every year at the Oscars. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what this film is gonna do. And to be honest, just hearing the synopsis makes me think it might not be what Oscar voters are gonna go for, but I'm actually really interested in seeing it just because of its synopsis. And if you don't know, it's basically a modern retelling in a way of a Frankenstein, where you have Willem Dafoe playing the mad scientist who brings back Emma Stone's character, and just kind of what becomes of that. So, will Willem Dafoe get an Oscar nomination? This happens every year that Willem Dafoe's in a film. Like, people start predicting him, myself included, I'm not gonna lie, because we want him to win so badly an Oscar. And then as the year progresses, he just steadily declines until he just falls all the way out. So I feel this is probably just another one of those, but still looking forward to the film. We could potentially be seeing a lot of Oscar nominations in terms of its technical categories like makeup. I think visual is also something that's a possibility, depending on what they really do with the reanimation, if you will. Writing, of course, director. I don't know if this is going to be as big as The Favorite, just based on its synopsis, but I wouldn't count Yorgos out completely. And if anything, it's still going to be something that's very much worth just keeping an eye on to see exactly how it develops. Maestro. Bradley Cooper's back, baby! Or as I like to call him, Ben Affleck 2.0. I kid. All right. People are downloading the video as I speak. Oh man. Honestly, it's my number 3, so of course I'm looking forward to it. And really, a big part of that is because of its synopsis. Like, if you guys know what the film is about, it's a pianist who's pretending to be blind, who witnesses a crime and kind of the aftermath of what that entails. So yeah, that sounds very, very fascinating. It sounds kind of unique in its way that it's presenting this. So very much looking forward to it. Bradley Cooper is, of course, directing it, and he's going to be in it. You also have Maya Hawke and Carey Mulligan in the film as well. So I think this also has the potential to be a top 5 best, which is why I placed it in my top 5. But you have things like director, picture, you have potentially best supporting actress, you have writing. I could see maybe you getting in for a tech or two here or there, but yeah, I think with Bradley Cooper's name attached to it, you just have to consider the possibility of this being a big Oscar contender, especially with how big A Star Is Born did and how close I think that one was to winning Best Picture for a while there. So yeah, it's easily top 3. I know a lot of people who are doing super early predictions like I am also have it pretty high up, so yeah, I'm just following suit, I guess, in that way. Dune Part 2. And this is where we see justice for Denis Villeneuve come in, right? Academy? Still salty about him being snubbed for the first one. But As I mentioned back then, and as I mentioned earlier in this video with Spider-Man, I think the Academy likes to honor the second one more than the first, or if it's a trilogy, maybe the third one, as long as the film is good, of course. But I think this is where we're really going to see Dune, like, blow up, if you will. And don't get me wrong, I think the first one did goddamn pretty good as well. I mean, it won a shit ton of tech categories. It did not fail in any regards to Oscar stuff. But I think this one could go even further. Getting the director for Denis Villeneuve, will he finally win picture? I have no reason to believe it won't get the exact same tech nominations as the first one, potentially winning those exact same ones. So yeah, I think this is just an easy overall package that anyone's just going to put in their top 10. Am I being a little bit too generous with number 2? Maybe, but I'm really looking forward to seeing exactly how they go out, how they pretty much end this. And my God, that cast is stacked. Not only do you have Timothy coming back, but Austin Butler's coming in, Florence Pugh's coming in. So yeah, I think just on star power alone, a lot of people are just going to be excited to see this one, and I am too. Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah, I mean, how could I not? It's Martin Scorsese. And look, I'm not saying every single one of his films are winners, but even when the film doesn't end up wowing you, you still have to respect and be in awe of the craft that goes into it. So yes, I'm very much looking forward to seeing Killers of the Flower Moon. This was pretty high on my predictions last year when we thought the film was going to be coming out last year, and it's probably going to ride high almost the entire time until the film comes out and either proves me right or proves me wrong, and then I'll be disappointed. But I mentioned this, but Martin Scorsese has not won director in a heck of a long time, and he's only won one, which is, you know, for someone who's so iconic in Hollywood as Martin, to only have one is kind of a shock. So yeah, I think they might be looking to honor him with another one, but I mean, you got stiff competition. I mean, Denis got to get in, right? Bradley Cooper potentially getting in. Yorgos possibly. Christopher Nolan. I mean, as of right now, we've got fucking stacked in the director categories, depending on how the films do, of course. But there is a lot that can happen. Obviously, some of these films don't have exact release dates of this year, so they could get pushed back to the following year. There's films that we haven't even heard of that could get announced and come in and just surprise us. I mean, that's one of the exciting things about the early Oscar predictions, is that anything can happen. These are complete and total guesses, and that's what makes it exciting, like the Wild West of predictions as of right now. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my predictions for this year. They're super early. I just kind of did this as a way of doing the most anticipated movies of the year list, but I'm not going to continue this next month. I'm going to go back to doing my regular predictions for this year's Academy. So keep a lookout for those. Let me know what films you think are going to be big for the 2024 Oscars. Should I throw Barbie in there? Is Barbie Best Picture material? Probably, but we'll see. We'll see. Until next time, guys, like always, please stay safe out there and have a good one.